Right. The first one to chat is the person before me. Hi, Rasp.
Hi.
Yes. Chatter A. Other caser, Tichi. We have Vesper over here. Ever so lovely. We have Fluffy, who we were with last time, and well, this place must look familiar to you guys, yes? Lovely, lovely, lovely place downtown in which you were toured. Bye, Axel. Not feeling so sick anymore. Let's just say I got my 8 hours of rest, Liz. At least that's a good thing, right? Hello, Stars Wolf. Why, if it isn't Beth? Welcome back. I'm glad you had a fun rainy vacation. Of course, it's Sky. Where is my water bottle? We worked out yesterday, Kai. Hoping you could have attended, but it's okay. I'm good, TJ. This is a new bottle. It's really soft. Oh, it was in the announcements. It's okay. I'll probably go DM you next time. So I miss it. Yeah, no problem.
I
It's just downtown, hi. So yeah, Vince. Hmm. Oh,
Have a good stream and nice.
the Axel, who is struggling with campus Wi-Fi. No way. Thanks, Axel. I appreciate it. Gosh, can you believe that? Hmm. It's like sending over those photos. I took a certain doe and a wren, but next to Axel actually paid off. But yes, hi. Oh, man. It's a super cool world. Yep, yes, it is. We're back in Complex 7. Again, last year I used to stream here a lot. I just didn't really have the proper hardware to keep it consistent. I was running like 25, 30 FPS here. Now running 40, which is pretty much more acceptable. It's very pretty. I need to bring you here one time, Kai. That's absolutely lovely in this place. It's your favorite. Hey, that bot should look familiar to you, that model. Except he's, you know, turned around. It's nice here. It makes me feel like I'm actually part of a bigger place. Beth has also yet to see it, and so we will have a Complex 7 tour number 2. We sure had a lot of fun over at that car, didn't we? I mean, busted as the windshield was. Vesper wasn't able to go there. She was busy with work, unfortunately. Oh dear, oh dear. Surely, given the opportunity, she would wish to join us in company. Right.
hmm, exactly.
Fluffy says, I sure had fun doing the traffic stop on it. Yes, Fluffy's just leaning like, looking down on Doran in a funny way. I want to take some pictures again. I mean, you can always hop in, let's in VR this time. No, Litz was in VR, right? I don't remember. Was she? Or was she in desktop? I can't quite recall. Mhm. Presence is always so diminutive, like small, so it's a little hard to tell. There she is. Guy, I am really proud of you when it came to your shrimp model that you've been selling like hot. Well, I mean, you've been selling. I don't know if it's like selling like hotcakes is a proper term, but yes. Why, if it
Selling like
isn't
popcorn shrimp.
my who is this? Wallow? Yes, it is Wallow, my favorite retail manager, sharing the fortune around. Thank you so much for the subs. I appreciate that. The shrimp, yes. We even have Chibi Doki of all of the silly people. Have it. A most fulfilling feeling, I bet. Hello, Marnage. Well, says I actually quit my other job. Got the new one for part-time cashiering. I'll be making 20.50 an hour. How do you make 20.50 an hour cashiering? But you gotta tell Vesper here how that's done.
That's more than I make. But then again, it also could be the whole varying state to state thing here.
You know, that makes sense. That could be it. Mhm.
Yeah,
Just work
the
at King
cost of living in certain
Supers.
states is higher.
Whatever that is.
I have no idea what retail chain that is.
I have no idea. I've never heard of it too, but oh well. They pay $25 to $27 an hour in management. My goodness, so imagine for you 6 hours. So 6 times 25. 150 a day.
That's higher than like the 15 an hour with like some cuts to it. I make.
I mean, oh man. Well, I hope you get a higher paying position soon or something. I don't know. I mean, your workplace seems pretty good and lenient. At least you get to pick your schedule and whatnot. Here, I don't think
Yeah.
I don't think most people can do that.
Well, it's also because they're also being considerate of the fact that I'm also doing schoolwork and all that as well.
Your tail length from the top view. What's up?
Hmm.
Oh, I have like bad posture. There we go.
Oops.
There to talk about the tail. Yes, normally I have my tail like in front, so now it's just there. Hmm. I shall see. Chomping on the tail. I have a particular
money is
video
for you.
about it. In which it's like you're gonna have a full mouth of minty freshness if you do decide to yes that thing over there. Why? What do you know? Wallow seems to be celebrating more than I anticipated. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. We can like order dinner here. We don't have to loiter anymore, man. We're still gonna get like the cheapest in the menu, so we can take home some of the money and fantastic. Anyway, where were we? Oh, Uncle Gib, what a big tale you have. I've trust me, I'm trying to keep it modest. Not like I can control it, but I've seen some of my friends. They have like tails that are enormous, like 4 times their body length, and I'm like, doesn't that get in the way of day-to-day life, right?
I mean, I'd think so, yeah.
Right? The girthy tail. Oh my god. Hello, Frank. It's been a while. How are you doing? Of all people to come and drop by stream, an old friend of mine I've known close to 20 years now. I've been here, just ignore my mess. No, no, I can check my chat logs and. Mm. Wag puta. Hi, Iron Wolf. Prince Kino seems to be invoking a certain command, rather peculiar. Jirax's explosive tail. He does have the rather big tail, doesn't he? Quite a flame, if I may describe it. Imagine if Beth's Avi illustrated his baldness not on top. No, he's gonna have his mane. But it's gonna be on his tail. So he's like a Rex, right? So with the Rex not having any fur on their tail, it's gonna look like a rat's
A rat
tail.
tail.
A rat tail, right? That's gonna be really fun. It's like, I think that's what you should do, man. Oh my goodness.
Oh, Ratsonium.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, big guy passing by. Hi there, Wish. Good evening. I'm about to pass out after
Rude.
doing a funny thing in the Philippines right now, but I figured you did a funny thing. No wonder you were on red status. Well, I hope you enjoyed, and I catch you around, Wish. Get some rest. Replenish that stamina. Guy walking like he shat his. Gago, may karga. Ayan. That guy looks like he had a bit of an accident in the pants department. He had to make sure that we were aware of the incident that happened. Well, it has been requested. Oh my goodness. Hello, Nord. Did I greet you, Nordax? Clean up on aisle pantaloons. Ugh. He can hear you. Don't speak so loudly.
Oh. Yes, clean up on aisle. Not
Ah.
on stream.
Gab, question. How do you have more than one camera? It is this thing called pins in VR chat. You can have up to 3. Hi, Mitzi. Go back to bed. Yeah, after standing in the rain for a while, I definitely need to. Wishes all downpoured and wet. Gotcha. Undertune. Hi. Work calls. See you around. Cringe. Hang up, says Wallow. Just. No. And then you fire up your favorite Steam game. So you immediately forget about the consequence. You immediately forget about the bother, which is a work call. Excellent advice. For free as well. Downpour and wet. I'm doing okay, Spartan.
What is with that guy?
What's
Tip
this?
wasn't working, but here you go. I'm glad to catch a stream finally. Love your stuff on Insta and love the vibe of your streams. Always happy to see somebody be different. Themselves three.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Prince Kino. I appreciate it. Ain't it strange? I try to be different by being the most normal and mundane stream like content there is. Quite literally, just a snapshot of two people sitting down on like the street, chatting, and being part of the crowd. But yes, I appreciate it. Gib the ultra normal streamer. Ah yes, I am the one punch man of VR chat streaming. Consecutive normal sitting, yes. Stretch, hydrate. Cockroach, yes. To be honest, I don't think I've seen other VTubers that have this kind of setup though, where they just chat. I I mean, the just chatting streams for VTubers are populated, right? But you're gonna see them predominantly as, for example, like Vesper's the VTuber, right? And then on this part of the screen is like the chat window, and then like you're just gonna do that left and right with that. That's all they do with their models, and yeah, that's that. I mean, it works. It's just not exciting. Like my streams are not exciting.
It's
Yes, super not exciting.
yeah, it's just those types of just chatting streams where they're YouTubers like basically just sliding around the screen.
Thing is, that is the limitation of
repetitive.
Live 2D. Yes, it's
Yeah.
if you are stuck in that flat dimension of yours, it's a little difficult to be creative with your shots. For example, my streams, if it was Live 2D, would be utterly boring. It's just your model and my model next to each other in the chat window. But here, I'm able to have like dynamic shots that alternate between, and it feels more like an a proper shoot more than anything. You see, that's a secret. Yeah, that's how I get away with like my super boring content. I make up for it in the shots. More like IRL, Gab. Ah. I love how Vesper, the camera picks up Vesper's smile. Right, it's charming. Smile you get right before you're banned.
Yes. Bye bye.
And then just like, oh wait, no, wrong zoom. Not there. There we go. That's better. A good way to go.
Oh, I could make it so much worse.
Oh what?
I could make it so much worse. You know how my glasses can light up, right?
Oh yeah. Actually, chat. Yes, you appear like a ultra DORK. A cute one. A cute one. Listen. I'm stuck being flat. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's fine, lit. It's the legs that's most important for me. Ah, what's this? I think the people who do are kind of gone in a different time, says Wish. There was a good amount of them before I started in VR chat proper. I know a good bunch disappeared. Well, to be honest, I'm not one to speak about specific content creators because the only ones I really watch are whenever I happen to open Twitch and like, oh, look, Caro's online. Let's drop by and say hi. Okay, so's online. Let's see what he's playing. And just have it open in the background while I work in Unity. Turn it off in 10 minutes. There's it's why I have such a little following in my TikTok and whatnot. What's this? You need those close-up zooms on your face, like from The Office, whenever crap happens. As cockroach. I mean, isn't that like the format of my interviews right now? I mean, my my streams. They're like semi interviews. Unity. Ah, yes, my best friend Unity, and the evil twin brother Blender, and the sister you Substance Painter. They're like a trio of evil bosses that you would find in a Resident Evil game. Hi, Pink Dew. Oh shoot! I should have loaded Pink. I'm gonna load it. I'm gonna find a way how. So, Pink Dew here, a very wonderful artist, has decided to make something for me. She's already made so much for me, but the latest one she did was what I found most excellent. Let's see. How do I say this? I wonder how. What's this? I wonder how uh, Caro just does it. What's this? You dragged a URL in OBS with automatic. Nope. Artsies. Okay, this was made by PinkTube, right? Right. Okay. Let me save this real quick. It's in downloads. Okay. Now PinkTube made another piece. It's so amazing. It looks like an album cover that you would find. So look at this. Look at this, like Hollow Knight looking epicness. It's amazing. It's super amazing. I don't know how to maximize it. I hate using VR controllers when manipulating images. There you go. Yo, look at that. I would like play the game. I would play the game to
Yes.
completion
That's
if
super
that's there.
adorable.
Yeah.
Like
Oh
I was
yeah,
working
Chad.
yesterday and all that, right? Between customers, it's just I was just staring at that, right? So it's just oh my god, that's so adorable, you know?
It's I keep on looking back at it. It's like, damn. To me, chat, it's not the like it's the style and the hook, the charm of art that gets to me. This one especially is super spot on. I love how I had the rectangular shoulders, the posture, and then how you integrated the blues into my high collar, and then it melts into my thigh. Yes, most excellent. There is another one made by Litz. Hold on. Look at this. Oh my god, that's a super zoom in of her hand. Sorry, Litz. Not the best. Sorry, wait. Scale. Why is this so high res? Oh, yep, you have an idea what it is. Has to be a way. This one. Or transform. Fit to screen. There you go. So, Litz was bored and decided to go make some charms. Yes, that's Helldivers. We play Helldivers together. So, Litz has decided to go make this lovely charm that you can see here on my right, my left, no, the right of your screen. That's so cute, isn't that? It's super charming.
Bite-sized, yeah, okay.
Bite-sized gap. The thing is, Nate said that she wanted to monetize it. I think we're gonna get into trouble if if we do that because I don't have commercial rights to any of these things, or merch at least. But yes. So yeah, I am really flabbergasted by the amount of talented people that's over at my server, and especially the fan art that they make. know that I love them all with my heart. I can't make keychains to sell. I can't. I'm Chinese, I know, and I can just probably like put a million out, but I have ethics that I follow. I'm gonna think of merch eventually. Maybe like perchance the tie or the brooch. Like these are very much merchable because these are like handmade. Hello, Max. So yeah. Yeah, it's the brooch that me and Vesper wear. See, we have the same thing. Helldivers is fun. Just waiting for an optimization pack. Oh, you always want optimization for everything. I, I'm all for it, but maybe you need better hardware too. A date. Ah, yes. Look at our ever so lovely date spot. Litter on the floor. And lots of passerbys. They've been talking for the past 3 hours and 15 days. The guy behind me cannot decide on what pastry to order. Maybe he's just window shopping at this point. You should print and frame paint use work. That is the plan. I'm saving up for a printer and like a laminator. And then I'm gonna. Yes, how may we help you? And then we're going to. I'm going to
Huh?
put that on the wall.
I guess he's just never seen two
The
furs.
exact. Yeah. Gago, the exact. Is that place even still open, Frank? Gotcha. Well, mm, people yapping and arguing all the time. Eating that rope. You're gonna. That. This. Of course. Of course. When the cameras aren't rolling and there's no prying eyes anymore, I'm sure Kai is going to do like what most kids do and put the 9-volt battery in your tongue. Ugh.
I never put batteries in my mouth though. However, I used to get in trouble for excuse me. I used to get in trouble for like putting the whole My Little Pony toys in my mouth as a kid.
You used to eat ponies?
I didn't eat them. I just put them in my mouth. The plastic toys.
Okay, so you were the precursor to eating, which is mouth putting. So Vesper eats ponies, chat. There you have it.
I used to... What the heck? Listen, I know I was weird as a kid.
Same here. I
I
ate
was
the
like
brick,
what, a
chat.
toddler?
What's this? When I was a kid, I licked batteries. It was spicy. You and me both, Frank. God, the tingle of delight. Carlos says I'll do it in front of people. I don't care. Batteries taste weird, though. Batteries
Neither
taste
you
delicious with a fork and socket on top. Look, when I was a kid,
No.
you know the hairpins, like the little black things that can split. So I put that in an electric socket out of curiosity because when I was young, I see a hole, I have to put it in, like something, like a stick, a hairpin in this chance, and I was promptly introduced to what electrocution was at a very young age. I cried, yes, and somehow my childish constitution granted me immunity from any forms of injuries. I have finished my hot cup of Milo's as wished. Super comfy and time to break out the e-reader for a time in the passion. So Wish is just gonna Yes. Good night in advance, Wish. The rat tail is done. I just need to fix a small amount of clip. Beth actually did it. Oh my goodness.
Oh gosh.
Oh,
Lost something to a
God.
Ratsonium. Okay.
We were telling chat last stream that we need to have you here in the Complex 7 tour. This is a place you 100% have to see. But, but, I'm contemplating if I want to do it now or when you have your big screen beyond. This place is just amazing to the eyes. I'm not sure the old headset of yours might do it justice. But you're more than welcome to still hang out if you wish. I brought Fluffy, I brought Axel, I brought Nord, I brought Doran. What should I bring? DG was there for a while, and Seal, Ludicrous Seal was there as well. Breach. Breach. White Iron Wolf says, in high school, one of my friends had a bullring nose piercing, and we used to put a 9-volt battery to it when he would fall asleep. A rather hot awakening, I see. Ugh.
And then they swap the metals out to something that isn't conductive.
I'm not a fan of nose rings. I always call it a snot catcher.
Me
I don't know. Like, if you think it's cool, then all right. But you'll never convince me that it's cool. Oh, what are you, cattle? A minotaur? Ugh.
Yeah, my twin has one, and I've gotta say, like they busted into the bathroom while I was in there doing my own thing, right?
Yeah.
I just had to sit there and watch them take like some saline spray and go on each side of their nose, like ugh. That's how you keep it from getting infected.
Yeah, look. Perhaps my standards, my taste for aesthetics is a bit different. For example, I find earrings, that one single earring on men, just one on one side, I think it looks cool. As a show of rebelliousness without having to look like they're some sort of creature you have to keep away from an MRI. But the weird piercings that go through your nose or your tongue, it's I guess it's okay. But I'm so scared you might swallow it. Not a big fan of it. Vesper does have a twin. It's Vesper's spare parts.
Spare parts, but I call them cruddy lungs. Because they're asthmatic and like me.
Yes. You see, when Vesper and her twin were born, the stats weren't divided equally. Vesper took like 80% of it constitution wise. Anywho, where were we? Some people look cool with it, some should have thought of it. Yes, I agree. Fashion aesthetics, anything you do to look good or dress up, really is a case to case basis. It's not a one size fits all deal. It's just how when people react to them being told, you look absolutely terrible in that. It's not well fitting for your form. I think you would look better here. And they actually cite an example which they look better in. And then they're like, you don't tell me what to do. I think I look beautiful. Like, all right. Yeah, don't blame me if you're called ugly by somebody else. The new Final Destination movie validated my fear of nose rings being pulled out of no. Hello, Metal God. Teachy says, so out there's another Vesper running around. I would ask where, but I have respect for people. Oh, trust me, it's not the
Trust me.
nice Vesper that you know.
Yeah, no, we're fraternal twins, not identical, so we look entirely different. So yeah, there's not another Vesper running around.
Oh,
There's
yeah,
just
they
someone I
just
share blood with.
came from the same manufacturing plant with the same batch date. There you go. Trust me, Vesper's like 10 million% better. I've seen the twin. And especially how they act, the personality is matching of their looks. Bad life advice. If you offer life advice, how do I break up with this girl I'm with? Oh, it's simple, really. Have you guys been together long, or is this just a fling? Because if you've been together long, the best thing you can do is give them the courtesy of sitting down, preferably over a meal, like a final farewell. Give your favorite meal as a reminisce towards a good memory. But the most important factor is, aside from courtesy and concise communication on the day, is make sure you have their mom right next to you, wearing a very low hung shirt where her cleavage can be seen, and you have the arm around and say, I think we need to break up. Me and mom are gonna. Yeah, sorry, duds. That's my bad life advice on how to break up with a girl. I won't argue with you again. Burb says, same here. I have a twin, but he's completely different. Ah. Well, I wonder what it would be like if I had a twin, an identical twin. Except she's a girl. A lot of people would be happy. Oh, I don't like the male Geb here. Have the female Geb. Sky Chan. My twin would probably have a lot of run-ins with trouble. But yes. I didn't hear anything because an ad came on as you were talking. Oh, too bad. Looks like you have to go watch the VOD of the stream if you want your answer. It was a really long and concise one as well. Oh, well. Artsy Cat says, I'm convinced Geb is what made me a furry. Nothing wrong with it. Ichi continues, my twin would be as screwed up and just as weird as the world is not prepared for two of me. Do you have siblings? Yes, I do. I am the youngest among four. I have two brothers and one sister. I need to visit my brother soon. It's been a while. Hope he's okay. Timestamp 35 minutes onwards. That's when you look for your answer. Do they know your Gib? Oh, yeah, my brother does. I haven't really been able to talk to my other siblings. They're kind of out of reach. Yeah, I don't know where they are. Teachy says, I have one brother and one sister. We are all on the spectrum with all of us hitting different places. When we get together, it's weird. Hmm. On the spectrum. Only person on any form of spectrum in my family is probably my mother. Hmm. Extremes on both ends, hot and cold. Alright, fully fix the rat tail and clipping is done. Fantastic, Bev. That's gonna be funny to see. Especially when it's like color pink. Oh my god. Like when the fur disappears, Vesp. It's gonna be pink, right? Or with the worst is when it's like patches. Some people try to cling on to their hair so badly that even though it looks terrible, they look like the crypt keeper, like from Tales of the, like they're undead with just patches of hair. Yeah, at that point they should just let go. They would look much more cooler if they shaved their head. Huh. Yes.
Okay. Just
Probably a
whack you with the box and
mistake.
leave.
Yeah, he seems to be a little confused on to where to drop the parcel. Mm, but yes, let him do his chores, his duties, his job. You sound like Zoro a little bit. A little bit. Hello, Zoro. It still has the pattern. I've not figured how to recall it. It's okay, Beth. Don't worry about it. Material swaps is a little complicated to do.
Oh, ouch, right on the tail.
Ah, anywho. Where were we? Soon I will learn Polly. Ah, yes, when you're not happy with just one. Driverless Teslas. I can't use any of my chat rewards. Hmm. Hmm. It's always fun to see Beth go. Make little strides in progress in his avatar work. I have to remind myself he got into the thing only recently. He has what? Like me a few days worth of knowledge if it's like straight. 1/4 on of the way to Hmm, well, there's still 3/4 of the way to go. I dread the day Beth actually redeems it. Maybe I secretly like take away his points. Beth, you have to. No, I can't. I can't. I send Beth 20 cake. So you wish to go send your resources over to Beth to let him achieve his goal faster. I was gonna ask for some bad life advice. Did you perchance not have enough points? Or is it fully redeemed? Yet I have heard comments that my letter S's sound harsh. Does it sound harsh? Like I a cotton candy. Oh, okay. Frank goes. Oh, I have something random to share. I was out earlier this afternoon and I was walking. A couple was in front of me. But when I was in front of them about to pass, this girl pulled out bubbles and blowed on my face and said, "Bubbles." She's probably, she's probably deeply into the spectrum. Bubbles.
Ow.
We can never show that, never. Frank, wait, Frank, I'm gonna speak in Tagalog, chat, hold on. Frank, may video sa Instagram, nagbabasa siya nung parang, yung libro ng mga, nung Quran, kaso meron siyang, Down syndrome. Tapos gago yung pagbasa niya, di ba, okay na nung una eh. Tapos biglang, tapos yung mga comment, everything was fine until he started reading. And like, I was crying so hard, like trying not to laugh at it. And so was the rest of the people commenting. Again, this falls on the humor that the more you shouldn't laugh, the funnier it is when you do. It's Instagram. It's Instagram. I love that place. I wish it never disappears. I see the stuff you like. What do you mean you see the stuff I like? What do you mean you see the same? No. Gab was like, please. Like, I like wholesome things, like life advice and pictures of gardens. Things where there's a lot of comments. Let me just say, a vast majority of people nowadays, they aren't built for the humor that Instagram has. I'm so saddened by the fact that a lot of people have forgotten what it's like to laugh. It's such a tragedy of modern online society. 38, no, three birds in a trench coat. I thought 38. I would probably believe it is like 38 pigeons trying to form an adult human in a trench coat. But three? There was one video, Frank. It was like an African village, and it was panning, right? Panning through all of the people, like the kids, the young adults. And then there's this one particularly striking individual, which, let's just say, he didn't catch up evolutionarily. And upon closer inspection, it does make me question how one can be stuck in such a prehistoric timeline, appearance wise. Damn, I had to filter that out really, really well. Oh. Kakarot says, I'm glad my humor rubbed off on my partner. Yes, I'm. I thrive on the Instagram comments. You know, at first, I was afraid of following accounts on Instagram, right? Because normally, when you see somebody with a growing following like mine, you would check, like, oh, what is Geb into? And then you check more than half of what I'm following are like dark humor pages and read the comments videos, foreshadowing memes, watermelon, gorilla, grape juice, and rice field sort of content. Wheelchairs doing not wheelchair things. Hi there, Lord Zizo. And my viewer count dropped to 30. It's okay. It's okay. Can't help it, chat. Again, fair warning. I'm Filipino, chat. I have the propensity to laugh at things that I shouldn't. Read up on our humor. It's a bit abrasive in comparison to the people from the Western world. Who says? Kakarot says, I recently had to reset my algo because I view one girl dancing sexy and not my F. Why did you even view these things? That's the one thing I don't have on my Instagram. It was 4 a.m. and you just so happened to accidentally misclick it. Yes. Dark humor is great, says Beth. Just like food, not everyone gets exactly. It's the spice. It's what makes things nice and tasty. Everything is so sterilized and bland nowadays. Just like my stream, it's so sterilized, and family friendly. Here, let's de-sterilize it real quick. Here's some Vesper for you. Ain't she nice? Look at the striking eyes she's got. The smile. Sorry, I super zoomed in. But yes. You see, Vesper's a bit younger than I am, so her humor is pretty much not as expansive back into the timeline as you and me, Beth. We grew up in a different era of the internet, especially Kakaruch.
I have a joke. So a patient woke up in the hospital and said, Doctor, I can't feel my legs.
Basically, some
The
things I
doctor
find
said,
funny,
I
he
know,
doesn't.
I cut off your arms.
Sometimes some things he finds funny, I don't. But hey, we still have our common ground with things we would laugh about. You know, like the.
Look, you didn't find that funny before, but then you saw it, right? You saw how wrong it is to laugh at it. Then, oh my god!
It's okay
Oh
for
my
me to
god!
make fun of it.
That cook!
It's
Don't
okay
get me
for me to make
started on
fun
the
of it,
cooking
okay?
show, man. Like he's trying to get like the tomatoes of the
Just
jar.
like the.
Yeah. So that's to say, there's a show, like it's a cooking show, but it's a bunch of special people all pouring their heart and love into what they're trying to craft. And yeah, it's the three special guys. Kakarus is the tea. This is spoon. Imagine. I
I guess I just walk on up and then.
I I I cannot take it seriously. It's oh good lord. Oh, oh thank you, Godfrey. I appreciate that. Beth, I grew up before. That's Nord. You're kind of you you know. There's a cliff. Nord is like old there. Okay. Like respectfully aged there. That's a proper term. Much better to listen to. No. Damn. Keeps slipping off my thumb. There we go. Okay. Being old Nord, you still have hair. That's true. You see, you simply have more numbers on your numerical age. Besides, I've known people playing VR chat, and like one of my friends is he's 60 years old, like 66 years old, and he streams on TikTok. He's an Avali. His name is was it Progressive Geek? I haven't seen him since last year, but he's definitely an old man. Hi there, Rios. You know, I am curious. Who is online on the VR chat category at this hour? Pardon the Altabinus chat. Alright. Oh my goodness, imagine having 1,100 viewers. Okay. Nuts. So I guess all I gotta do is wear a succubus outfit with lots of gold and heavy makeup, have some horns, bounce around, make sure my fist bones are set properly. Nice.
Are you suggesting an outfit for me?
Oh no, no, not you. Not you. Don't worry. Hey, it's Allison. Nice. Is that guy a Terminid? What? That's. So Chihuahua streaming. Interesting. Anyway, I feel like you could pull off that look. Beth, no. Mm-mm. That's like 100% like not gonna happen. I do a lot. I miss the old YouTube, same here. I miss when YouTube still showed the amount of dislikes a video would have. Everybody's just so afraid of criticism.
Almost blue, almost doing things we used to do.
The old internet, huh?
Honestly, why would you shy away from criticism anyways? Like, sure, it's for some people, it's sort of they can't take criticism because it feels like someone's taking like jabs at them, and they're just genuinely trying to give them advice on how to improve on their skills and make
Precisely.
their art look better.
They are unable to discern between trolling and constructive criticism. That's what I have been noticing. They're so quick to jump the gun that, oh, you're simply judging me. And what, like, how about you listen first? Analyze, are you being trolled? Or is this individual trying to offer a suggestion for your own betterment? Right? Especially when it
Mm-hmm.
comes to art. There are, look, it's great for their skill level, but when you post your art, that is clearly not of the same caliber as your peers on a particular server or space. And of course, there's a point of comparison between your skills and composition and whatnot. They cannot take the comment that, hey, your art kind of looks bad because character A and character B looks like this, the head is disproportionate, they're coloring outside the lines. Like, they were given constructive criticism and then they leave, obviously, they feel hurt. And then the story that I spin is like, oh, you know what? Those people are just so elitist and like they only care about the bigger ones. But no, like in art school, it's all about criticizing what you do so you can be better.
And I get the whole unique art styles and all of it. It's not that you can't have stylization. It's just sometimes things are off when it comes to like the stylization, you know? Like, chibis for example and all that. They're like a style of character, right?
Yeah.
It's just if you're trying to make a chibi, like say, oh, the head's too big, the head's too small, you know?
You see, it also this then transitions into debate. Somebody will offer criticism, right? Hey, like your head's too small or too big. And then it's done constructively. You can always counter argue that I did this on purpose for this effect. Was it effective or not? And then it just becomes an exchange, right? Bev says these youths think they're getting attacked with constructive criticism in a lot of fronts on the internet. Ugh, controversial topic, but I agree with Bev. Art school skills art. There are points to that statement. I guess I'm one of the few that actually learned a little bit. So those unaware, I'm an animation student graduate, but you don't see me doing animation work. Like, for example, Kai, who does it excellently with the VTuber models and the rigging and the plain animations that they do. But I wouldn't have learned the fundamentals of art, like the fundamentals that I would skip over on YouTube, or if I didn't have a mentor, I didn't have access to infinite internet in order for me to better my skills. I did not have access to a community like DeviantArt and whatnot, which could give me criticism on what I do. I was just at home and it was just my mom or brother saying, oh yeah, that looks great. That was me being directionless with art. So I enrolled in art school. Um, and sure, you very few far in between only are the ones that are actually good. I call them good because they make money off their art while studying. 99% of us there were pretty bad in what we were doing. The one thing I did not like about art school, though, is when I was still studying classical arts. That was before I was in my animation course. So I was in a university in my country that has a college of fine arts. I entered obviously with my taste towards manga, anime, and whatnot. And the teachers saw that and said, you do any of that, you're gonna be kicked out. Obviously, that could have been worded better. And I understood what they meant by them saying, this isn't the field of study that's going to get you what you expect. Here, what we do is oil paintings, sculptures, woodwork, and whatnot. More of like material arts. It's not the digital art that you're after. I only understood that later on. And another point I agree with when it comes to art schools is a vast majority of your art discovery, your skills, will always just come from your own self research. I just wish they would streamline things a little bit more. One, it's either too much unnecessary things that they're unable to specialize the students, for example. And two, they put so little time into the actual important art subjects. And like 80% of the curriculum that you have is towards other things you're never really going to apply. So yeah. While school does teach you things for sure, I disagree with how much they put on a student all at once. Yeah, I had a subject. I'm gonna go hydrate teachy redeemon. I had a subject before, which was me doing community service. I had to render like I don't know how many, like 80 hours of work, I think. And that means me having to go to a impoverished site. I have to teach kids that don't even want to be taught. And I have to give them the erasers, the pencils, the school materials, all from my own pocket. And I had to pay the university for me to have that mandatory subject. Like, wow. Caro says, once you put all that on a person, it becomes less about making and creating, and more about completing. Which, while it is important to learn to complete a project in time, it just sucks the enjoyment out of stuff. I agree. Maybe they can streamline things better. Or I hope there were people like you that could perchance offer a more fun and conducive curriculum, unlike the one that I had to undertake. Then again, it's been around what? I got into art school almost 20 years ago. So it was a different time, clearly. Not everybody had the modern mindset that they have right now. But I'm not afraid to call like what I see as bad bad. I am not the type of person who's going to sugarcoat things, coddle people. Oh, darling, it looks fantastic. I love the star that you made. And they clearly just cut a circle. Like, no. So yeah. Oh God, how come we always go back to the topic of softies and coddling
Mm,
each stream?
I
We keep on
I
circling to
honestly
it.
don't know.
Maybe because it's
I
such a prominent
mean,
thing nowadays.
yeah. Like for a psychology class, I did like watch an video essay about how like some curriculum for some schools was like oriented on building up self-confidence in certain kids and all that. It was like a 20-minute segment out of the class just to make the kids feel good about themselves. And later on, it actually did more harm than it did any good. So sure, while praise is nice, if you're say taking someone as impressionable as a kid, only giving them praise instead of any criticism, it's not gonna work out well. There is
Sure.
a lot of lessons you'd have to learn after that. Because, say, the praise of a parent or a teacher is not that it's not what's gonna prepare you for the world, honestly.
For
Which
me,
is why someone should, yeah.
I think
Let's.
the saying that you learn things the hard way is how you really learn things. When you bump, you
Exactly.
stub your toe into the wall that you were supposed to look out for, and the swelling happens. You just get it. So many people are afraid of having real talk, they're so fragile and whatnot. Gosh, there's no more room for growth. They just cloister themselves.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. It's not like I hate those people. It's just like a decent amount of concern for them because cloistering themselves, huddling
Yeah,
themselves up, shutting themselves out from the world to preserve their own mental fortitude of being the greatest. It's just concerning.
it really is. It's sad that there are multiple communities online that easily foster such behaviors and things, which makes things worse. God, people aren't even. People have forgotten the whole point of what a debate is, right? They immediately think of it as an attack. No, it's how us human beings exercise what we call a mind in critical thinking, right? My point may be wrong. Your point may be wrong. Now let's discuss it as to why and use facts, right? The moment people say something that you disagree with, like they disagree with, they're like, no, 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 screw you, you're this and that. You hate us, don't you? I'm like, gosh, they are no different from the extremists that we call terrorists, in all honesty. Ugh, they ask for tolerance, right? Like, oh, because I'm special. But they themselves have zero tolerance. Ironic, isn't it? Truly ironic. Yeah. Takarut says, why are you attacking her? Can't you do better? That's why nowadays I just don't bother. Okay. 3 plus 5 to you is 1. Fantastic. You have a great day. Does the coin ever land on the edge? The edge of what? Just lands in my hand. Hi there, Angelkins. Yeah. Some people are not worth the energy. 100% agree. I highly agree with that. Just don't waste your time with them. Like, for example, you have a different energy space than me. Like, you completely disagree with everything I say. Just stop watching me. I will not hold it against you. Really, it's can't blame you. Edge of the coin. No, it's a binary choice. It's either heads or tails on a 50-50 chance. I have a video about that. Like, no, find your peace by choosing who and what you spend your energy on, right? Just don't bother trying to change things that you know won't change. Why be bothered about every single raindrop that hits your head? Just find an umbrella, or when you get home, take a bath, towel dry yourself. Can't shout at the sky and tell it to stop. It's always there. It's a natural thing. It's been there since the dawn of time. You're just wasting energy. How about you recall the good things that happen in your day instead, while the rain is bothering you with its downpour? Ah, yeah. Totally had great lunch today. Yes, sucks that I forgot my umbrella. Why take a bath? The rain already gave you a free shower. Exactly.
Don't get me wrong,
Headbutt
it's
every
not like
single
it's
raindrop.
impossible.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's not like it's impossible to be
My
friends
back
with someone
hurts.
with differing opinions as long as you're not like constantly bickering about it, you know? Say like, I
Yeah.
don't like celery. I find the stringy texture unappealing.
Mhm.
Geb, I don't know if he likes it or not, but me personally, I won't touch it. If he likes it, fine by me.
Yeah, you can be friends that don't agree on everything. You don't see eye to eye on things, but still be the
Mhm.
best of buddies. I've seen old men constantly argue and bicker over the pettiest of things, but they've been lifelong friends. Like they're sitting out on the bench and everything, like probably over a game of chess, and they're constantly gonna argue, right? But that's an exercise of
Mhm.
the mind. They're not trying to put each other down. Is that a Geb? Hi there, Minnie. A pleasure saying yeah. It's cool to know exactly where Geb and Vesper is streaming from. I just try to have my establishing shots, that's all. I love this shot. It looks like you're interviewing them in one of those panel shows. Hello, Sonic Soda. Peachy says, having you on makes dungeons in World of Warcraft less annoying and said, somewhat fun, just on autopilot. Sure, Minnie, why not? It seems somebody wants some company, Vesp.
You're more than you're more than welcome to hang out anyways, you know?
Yeah, Minnie. Ah, gosh, you missed the tour we had last time of Complex 7. It was ever so lovely. The wonderful sights we have around us. Hello, Sparkles. Yeah, bickering is fun if it's not serious. Like, and ugh, I miss you all, not gonna lie. Oh, well, I know you have places to be and things to do, so it's understandable. Minnie. Bev says, oh, I do that with one of my buddies who has a very different idea in life. We argue all the time, but we accept that our views come from the lives we grew up with and view the arguments as more discussions. Yeah, precisely. One of my closest friends, when I was still working in the office, he's just like inaccessible right now, really far and busy with his family, was a very devoted man of faith. And he never encountered somebody who would ask him questions that would make him think. And he'd also counter argument about it. But despite him, like I could see him being pissed off. Like So if I worship a tree, you're gonna respect me the same level, right? I mean, eating dirt is like my ritual. It's like no, and then but end of the day, we would still have dinner together, like before go heading home from work, buy some dumplings and some rice for $1, and then we would meet up on the gym the day after and like work and focus on other things. He knows I'm going to ask some inane question like, "Oh God, Gibbs gonna ask some crap again." But at that point, we just laugh at it, and we slowly start to understand. Like, okay, I get he has a point a little bit, but then I have a better point. So yeah, what's this? Top of the morning to ya, laddie. How you doing today? I'm doing okay. Just rambling about people again, the usual. It's okay, TT. You go focus on your World of Warcraft. You might miss out on loot and whatnot. Are you RMAing the GPU? Asked Beth to a artifact experiencing Mini. And she says, it's still here, sending it out sometime this week. It's a hit or miss, but funny enough, VRChat had no issues at all. Well,
Hmm.
don't wait until it completely dies, Minnie. That's my best advice. Wouldn't want to be caught with your pants down, wouldn't you? Good to hear you're doing well. Thank you, Sparkles. And that's why sugarcoating, says Marnage, everything and agreeing with everyone is also not a meaningful conversation. I would rather disengage than engage without authenticity. Mhm. God.
Even then, like, say, debating on different, different topics, helps you get to learn more about the person and gives you more insight on what kind of a person they are, So it helps you meet them in a
Exactly.
sense. So debates aren't always a bad thing. As long as they stay civil, you and the
Yeah,
other
it's all
person
about
are just
civility.
enjoying themselves. Yeah.
Because the moment somebody in a debate, like, starts to become really defensive in the point that they're childish, like, no, 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 that's nonsense, shut your mouth. That's when you know you need to disengage and they've lost the debate. Whatever they say from that point on is moot, right? Because they have lost the capacity of intellectual
Mhm.
conversation. They be done the
Or
stupid
even like,
chat.
or even say they turn the debate into an argument and then they start making fun of you because say I stutter quite a bit sometimes. It's just, is that really a point to like know my end of things that I stutter?
Yeah, well, that's the defense mechanism. They're gonna start calling you out on little
Mhm.
things they can attack. That's completely unrelated to the topic, right? But like Kakarot says, that's actually a good point. But unfortunately for you, your mom. Oh, what? You agree with peace? How about you have some peace with these nuts? Like, right? They start devolving into that.
Mhm.
Yeah. For humor, that's fine. When you know it's a friend, obviously, like tossing ice into the mix.
Mhm.
But yeah. Zev says, the worst is when somebody debates you just because they want to be right, though. They never agree with anything. Yeah, exactly. Some people want to put
Mhm.
their foot in other people's mouths.
Boy, oh boy, do I have some pretty good experience of that.
What's this? As long as the discussion is in good faith, I'm down to talk and talk. Yeah, precisely. The bad thing is, there was a time I thought I was discussing things in good faith with certain individuals. Little did I know they would start talking behind my back instead and making up all sorts of crap about me. That comes to show what sort of people they were. It's such a weak tactic as Mayday. If they start, then they definitely lost. 100% agree. The moment they start doing these things, childish mudslinging, you just smile. You've won. Or you can frown because the debate is over. Gosh, and I was having such a good time exchanging ideas with you two. Minnie says, "Hey, I finally have ear head to head movement from the OG Rex on the female magpie one, and I love it. Congratulations on the expressiveness, Minnie." The harsh slinging slasher. I can do ear flops, yes. The airplane ears best do it. The frowny, quick. Wow. Bester. Hello?
Yes,
There
I
you go.
am. I was.
Sad Vesper times. Sonic, but that's the thing. That's the best they can do. Just talk behind your back, but uh, is there anything else? The only other people who's gonna believe them are those that are equally as foolish as they are.
Honestly, though, true friend, if they actually have a problem with it, they would actually tell you, you know?
Yeah, they would straight up. Look, man. I didn't like the way you talked to my mom while I was on the phone. I get it was a joke. Like, they right? You they talk to you
Mm-hmm.
up front. Like, I think that was a bit of a
Yeah.
tasteless joke. And like, you know what? I'm sorry, man. I was caught up in the moment. I apologize. I didn't mean it. And then, right, that's it. You reconciled. It's over. Some people make it
Yeah.
full blown drama. And my God, snowball it to something enormous.
Mm-hmm.
Terrible. I have emissions, Sam. Hello, Knight. Welcome. So quickly time passes. Well, you're out of the hospital. That's good news for me. Oh, I know just the thing to post on social media later. Oh boy. Correct me if I'm wrong. Geb didn't make the whole model. Yes, correct. I simply kit bashed things together. The Hyanid and the Hydra. The one who made the Hydra GM is Tokyo Zilla. Please check out their camera. They have such amazing stylistic renditions to their avies. Very distinct. And then we have Albert for the Hyanid. I think the Hyanid is just such a good base that just works. It's good hands, good body, good everything. And it's very malleable to how you want it to fit. Strange, isn't it? So, Gab, you're part lizard and part hyena. No, not necessarily. It's just I got the parts from the hyena design. Imagine me as a hyena best. Like, I'm gonna go cackle.
Uh,
You stink.
no, you.
Yeah, just joking. Chat, please maintain proper personal hygiene, okay? I'm extremely averse to terrible scents.
Same here.
But yeah, if there's anything you're interested about the Hydra, it's Tokyo Zilla you have to ask. I I'm just another consumer, really. Sure, I edited a few things. Minnie probably knows more than I do. She's the one responsible for the female Hydra G I added. Ever so eye catching. The thing is, I never make things that are like for public distribution or for sale. All the work I do are just personal projects or or I have a few friends that commissioned me surprisingly. And because I've known them for a long while, I said, you know what, why not? Yeah, I like the cool things you added in the front. What do you mean you? No, it's not you. It's the Hydra. Oh, I'm slow. Anyway.
That's just yes. These.
Yes, there you go. Chat, I am very much a nice blue-blooded male, and I am old-fashioned when it comes to my tastes. Not too little, not too much. Modest, prim, and proper. The beautiful canvas of a body they have, unmarked, unscratched, unscathed, not vandalized. Simple, clean, good personality. Sincere and headstrong are the traits that I applaud.
Flirting with this disaster became me. It named me as
My goodness. I'll have dinner here in a second, says Minnie. I may join you two around after you're still here. Okay, Minnie. I'll probably go grab a snack as well after stream. But I'll just be AFK in game until then.
there's a part of me that's always true.
Not sure I have the social battery for a lot of people today, so very select names for later.
That you promised with your eyes, I see in yours too. Now your eyes
I modified the AFK pose a teeny tiny bit. So my finger doesn't like stick into my face.
Yes, so you're no longer just smacking yourself in the face every now and again.
No, no, that is the modified one. It's better than me sticking my fingers up my
Oh.
nose.
Yeah, true. I don't think anyone wants to see you like picking your nose when you're AFK.
I'm not picking my nose. Will you do a stream where you explore the city? Sometimes snippets of it I do. Like after stream, I went to a certain food establishment in the city and I brought chat along. Gibbs digging for gold. Digging for gold. Look, if there's actual gold, I'm all for. Beth, do you see this? This word? This subliminal messaging I have behind me. I mean, totally not subliminal messaging I have behind me. Yes. Gab, remember that thing you showed me about your plans? How's it going? I don't remember. What are you talking about? Oh, is it the reading thing? Oh, I need to reshoot it, Frank, because of the new form that we have. Fluffy.
Didn't I suggest like taking the old clips, maybe having like a transition of you walking through an anomalous door, so you can still use the.
Oh yeah, the backroom
still use the old-
entities.
But
Entities, yeah. The backroom entities, yeah. And the other anomalies I was having a drink with, yes. Oh my goodness, will you look at that? Beth has decided to go toss a bit of money our way. Thanks, Beth. I mean, it's not like our plates are empty or anything.
Actually, now that I think about it, these are also dirty plates.
They look like spaghetti stains, don't they? You zoom in. See, the plate's not the neatest. The subliminal text message work. What? Like I'm open for cash and like there's a visual flow from here to like here. Please, Minnie. It's just coincidence, promise. Yeah. Gosh, it's just the charm of this place. But yeah, there's one time I have to go reshoot the stuff for the vid. Most of it is usable. I like your idea. Excuse me. Whoa, gas. Probably need to eat something real soon. Oh, I'm glad the headphones are helping. Oh my goodness,
As
just
soon as in maybe 15 minutes.
15 men. What? It's only one.
Fif-
Yeah, but
50.
50, 50, 50.
We're in, 50. Exactly. I didn't say 15, I said 50.
Yep. Totally. And the off by
Doesn't
point
go-
one.
Doesn't
Point
draw
one.
its stream.
My God. Fluffy, doing a great job being one of the minions of Beth. Probably one of the generals of the Demon King himself. Meanwhile, Litz is off probably firing some clay by her oven. Or I think she was air drying it. Did you know that thing is actually on clay, if I remember correctly, like air dried clay. Yes, this lovely thing made by Litz. Cool, isn't it? General in. Yep. Oh, Beth, you haven't even heard about the toenail seasoning that I was gonna bring up, but because I'm nice, I didn't bring the continue. I'll tell you all about it next time we hang out. And the update on the seasonal, but anyway, yes, to be safe. Oh, did you want to see it longer here? Baba, it's adorable, isn't it? Yep, that's handcrafted by Lance. Like, yes, later, Beth. I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it later. Beth, also because you're back on vacation, you know what we can do? We can play some Astartes. And we can hell dive with Vesper too. Vesper has been really, really hooked into hell diving recently, like much more than I am. God. Like, what's your favorite weapon right now? The Adjudicator? What's that? Nice old heavy assault rifle, yeah.
And then the. Of course, I can't remember the name right now.
The backpack puppy.
But
The-
yes, point blank, spider and backpack puppy. Yep.
The Vesper was trying to get the contents of a vault. And it just so happens that the smallest of Terminids showed up, the little like squishy bug. What did Vesper do? Whipped out the ultimatum and shot it point blank. It just so happened I was within the blast radius as well. So she's very fond of the mini nuke grenade that she has, yes. Mhm.
It's just crud, spider.
Yeah.
Valid reaction to a spider in the house.
Gotta stay away from Vesper. Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh, we still need some pink samples because the ship upgrades, there's still so much to do.
It's
The two times you hit, I didn't hit you with the ultimatum. It was the planet, you know. The planet was so unstable. It was affecting the wind to such a degree that one could be mistaken as the shockwave emitted by an ultimatum hand launched hell bomb. And it kind of went your way, and yes. It's terrible, terrible, the gloom infested places. It's still not worse than Blue's goddamn mines, though. So here he is with the mines that are color red. What is the color of the surface of the planet? Red. And I had no idea where the mines were. I think I blew up 3 times on the same spot.
Oh, Axiom did that to us too, remember?
Oh, yeah. Napalm barrage.
Whoops.
What's this? Friendly fire acid. You have the Astartes mod. Good. Let's start playing tomorrow or something. Let's see. I am curious. I need to see what's new.
The hero of light strikes.
Oh my goodness. Nord correcting the eyesore of a decimal. Thanks, Nord. So Nord here's a dragon sleeping on a pile of gold, silver, maybe depreciated copper, and he just plucks a few coins and nope. Beth immediately corrects it. Not even more than 30 seconds. Gosh. Also, Blue is here. Hi. Sorry again. Yeah, I will never forget you, minor. Blue's choices of weaponry and stratagems. Yes. Ah, yes. Let's go activate the oil pumps and wait for the shuttles to arrive. Blue just decides to throw mines in the open field in between point A and point B, which we have to traverse. While there's a dragon roach, which means we have to run around and evade, the flying bile titan spew. Oh. And Beth is colorblind. He can't see red. But Beth, what color is this behind me? Like this thing. And like the tip of my hair. What does it show us to you?
Actually,
Wait,
if
was
he
it?
can't see red, he can't probably properly see me.
I mean, you're more like an orange pumpkin color,
Yeah, true. There's
right?
still red in it.
Dude, you are in the warm spectrum of colors.
Yeah.
I see button. I must push button. Also, Fluffy counterattacks. No, counterattacks? No. He simply adds more. Oh my gosh. Your clutch is gonna last twice as long, I swear. Beth might be older, says Fluffy, but he's definitely got the faster hands for tipping. Despite the sunburned, crispy skin that he has, like he's trying to ball a fist, he still manages to press one of the Amazon eject trash buttons. By trash, it's like excess money because their vaults can't hold anymore, so they just dispose of it. The same way in fast foods where they throw away the money and whatnot. I mean the food. But in this case, it's money. I think the number one thing
Yeah.
keeping his yacht upright, keeping the buoyancy balance, is he just has so much spare cash in the middle that it just keeps the boat in a proper, um, like, uprightness. Sorry, best point.
I was about to say, like, I worked fast food. We don't throw out the money.
He threw out
More
the
like-
food. Yes.
Yes.
Lasagna sounds good, Millie. Make sure it doesn't spill on you and gonna. Because I feel bad because it's gonna fall on the floor. And before that happens. Yes, I ate food off the floor before, Best. And I'm sure the germs were courteous enough and they followed the 5-second rule. They're like, no. 4, 3. Aw, he picked it up. Right? Still alive. I'm still alive to this day. And
You're
that's
still
what
alive, but
matters.
still, that 5-second rule's not true.
Don't let the germs hear that. They may not honor it next time. Jeez. So, Vesper in pumpkin little Halloween sticker. I need that now. That sounds like a fantastic art idea, doesn't it? Halloween vest. She does have a lovely witch
Oh,
hat.
Oh yeah, true.
Hands are fine. They're just
want me to put it
peeling
on?
like a lizard. You and me both. Hi there. Crispy burnt inventory chicken. At first, it was simply all the 7 secret spices and herbs, and after you take it out, somehow it was gravy and/or mayonnaise. That's how it works, Fluffy. Beefy can't differentiate between the confirm versus cancel button, hence why he accidentally donates. Yes, probably. If it isn't Drax, Honey Muncher. Yes. Beth said I had recovered food from a dumpster before. I mean, the pizza was still in the box. You, me, we're gonna share it. Just heat it up. So you're a raccoon now. I think that title falls upon Lance. Kakarut says, I remember my classmate back in grade school told me when the food lands on the floor, the germs would get scared and disperse. So you have time to pick it up before they even realize it's 100%. It does, right? And it leaves a perfectly sterile patch of like ground, which you can like re acquire the food from. Hi there, Jane. I'm doing okay. Thanks for asking. College was rough. I really like Fluffy's new model compared to the Dorgara disaster that he had before. Right? And like, uh, oh, like Donkey's uglier brother. Now he has a Norton Aspel, which I say looks absolutely excellent. Has the charm, has the handsomeness. I'm getting some miso pasta I cooked earlier. Enjoy. Why, hi, Axiom. Nice to have you here. Yeah, you really opened my eyes there. I'm so happy you moved on, Fluffy. 8 hours socializing. I mean, I guess I just had a good group of friends. That's why I really enjoyed my college days. Like from yeah, man, I wish I could go back to those days. But like have my money right now. Or can I afford fast food without having to ask mom? I had to survive and I had to make do with $50 a week for food, for laundry, transportation, personal hygiene effects. You see, most of my peers during college had fun partying and drinking. What I had fun doing was board games, hanging out with other nerds, and like we would like bring all our laptops together and play games in the dorm, like Defense of the Ancients or MMORPGs, until it's late into the night, and then you would have to like, what time is it? What? It's already 6:30. I have class in 7. Class? I mean, you can just do your, keep on playing. I used to cut classes until I would hit the limit before I would be dropped from the subject. I mean, I know I could like pass the subject anyway. So I always thought of it as like limited amount of leaves you could have. It was all board games, watching anime, playing together in computer shops with the first Modern Warfare or And there's so much stuff. League of Legends and Molten WoW. Have you ever heard of Molten WoW? Oh wait, I should not be discussing that. It's a yes, it's World of Warcraft. But anywho, um, so yeah, there was World of Warcraft back then, and then we it was the Frozen Throne, Wrath of the Lich King. That was the patch back then. And what else? Yeah, League of Legends. League of Legends back then was still fun because you could have all sorts of quirky builds with your heroes. And there was still the rune system in it. Unlike now, I don't know what they do nowadays. Dinner time for me. I'll catch you later and take care. It sounds like Minnie is gonna go really far in order to get some food. I mean, safe travels, friend. In my dorm, we had a Wii and VR. You had a Wii and VR? Wow. Me personally, I bond with friends over my favorite anime, Bungo Stray Dogs. I see. I haven't heard Molten in a very long time. Right? Where you gotta vote in the website and then you can use the vote rewards for stuff. Hello, Voltage Wicker. Exactly, says Beth. I think it's because you don't get as annoyed when you die to BS, so it does not negatively affect your game. Reach. Voltage Wicker. I'm trying. Oh, I remember now. You're the one with the white and that fancy design. You DM'd me about it before. Hi. Down, Vesper and I. What's this? One of my friends and I would also spend a ton of time watching some series and some anime in that same common room. The room came with this large flat screen. It was awesome for content consumption. Lucky you. Ah, that was the first time I managed to play Dungeons and Dragons with my friends. That's where I got introduced to it. We had like our little printed character sheets. It was so much fun. But obviously, one sleepover wasn't enough to make any meaningful progress with the campaign. A 5 minute fight was like 5 hours or more. Like, what? Oh, yeah. Wow. Giving the gift of subscription. The Voltage. Thanks, Drax. Mani Manukas. Mani Manuk. I'll call you Mani. Mane. There we go. Hello, Mane. It's a nice place indeed. Yep, nothing fancy here. What's this? Hex P. Oh my goodness. I thought it was PewDiePie at first. Thank you for the subscription. Of course, and that's how we bring Kai out of the woodwork. Hi. Ooh. Coin. Hey, I'm listening. Oh my god. I thought it disappeared when I started rambling like an old man earlier.
Hi, Kai.
Hi,
Just joined
Kai.
us.
Vesper's very happy to still have you here. I'm just in Blender Hill, says Kai. Oh my goodness, what are you busy doing?
Oh, gosh. Trying to work on your own model?
Oh, we're finally gonna see.
Hmm.
I have a feeling Kai like secretly already bought the Abby and is like poking and prodding. I'm plotting. I'm plotting. There is a plug-in for Blender which lets you paint layer style. That might help with the. I saw it on Twitter the other day. That should help you with your
Time
texture
to
work.
avoid ads with the sweet Gebbos vibes Lithia Cozy.
I know. I know. Was it UC Paint? I think you need Substance Paint or like for all the fancy smancy normal maps like what I have on my arm. Ooh, shiny. Looks like it's made of hard candy. What's this? Infintus to subscribe for 2 months in a row. Time to avoid ads with a sweet Gambos vibe. Sweet Gambos vibes. Thank you so much, Infintus. Hi. Does look pretty in the light, doesn't it?
Ah, yes, like the crystals I like to collect.
Whereas Vesper isn't tempted to like nom on it. Because I would like when I have
I
the
know how to
funny
behave.
right. I have like smooth stones I collect from the beach, and I would sometimes like absent-mindedly like put it near my mouth. Like it feels nice on the cheeks and everything. It's just like what? Why are you rubbing a rock on your face, Gab? That's
That's why I
that's
got
nice.
so many stuffed animals, because it feels nice.
Oops, sorry. I got lost in thought. Ever since Sky mentioned Blender, I started thinking like, is there anything I missed? Nordic says sometimes I suffer from the lack of words. It's fine. I always took you for the gray whisperer that you are. Whoa.
Keep
In,
Fosip.
Infint was trying to be cool with the bits. Wheeze wheeze. Ah. What are you looking at? You see those two robots over there? Hi, sorry. Yeah, we're pointing at you. They're sometimes pointing towards something up there. I was like, what? What's this? Did you find a solution to those extra trackers for Vesp? Ah, asking Mitzi. No, unfortunately, she hasn't yet. She's prioritizing buying computer parts first, and then we'll circle back into looking
Yeah.
to getting slime trackers. But thank you for asking, Mitzi.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we decided to, well, at least I decided to ditch the strawberry slimes idea because that's a lot of fuss and hassle I don't want to deal with. Plus, they're not going to work with my original trackers either.
Yeah, they're mini slimes. They need a dongle.
Essentially,
We
dongle and then coding stuff that I just don't want to mess with.
we may just go with the Mitzi route eventually. Maybe Mitzi can go make us some cheapy $50 ones, and then we'll get back to that once we are done with the little computer project. It just made you look nerd. I have a question. Frank, ba't gising ka pa? Ba't ngayon ka lang pumunta dito sa stream, puta ka? Ba't ka? Yung huling beses na nandito ka, iba pa yung model ko. Ganun nakatagal. Parang 3 buwan. You sound like my uncle. I hope your uncle is wise and handsome. I'm saving for a full PC rebuild myself, so I get it. Getting a GPU is the worst right now. Computers be expensive. Gosh. Made it to the Discord. I hope to find some chatters. Oh, the Discord is very much active, but you have to tell me what exactly is your goal, Prince Kino? Everything is so expensive. We all need more of this, chat. More of this. Okay. Oh, you see, Nordex has really deep pockets because he's 4 millennia years old and a couple of centuries. He definitely has a stockpile of resources that he can just tap into on a whim. Oh. The heck is this? Oh my goodness, it's a GIF. Okay. Whoa there, buddy, yes?
Hmm.
I'm just running through general. Biff does not have nutritionally good valued snacks. I feel watched. Ah. Finally, another train bands to add to my collection. Congrats. So your watch says 762. Oh, it's 6522, Bev. Gibbs Indiana Jones. Oh, please. Ba, ba, da, ba. Ba, ba, da. Kakarot says, I've read a really good post about being immortal. If you're a vampire, you've lived 2 generations and you're still poor, just step into the light. That's true. It's make you should be rich by then. Like, have your own manor and everything. What's this about buying used computer parts? Oh no, Vespers. God. 65220 highway patrol. Do I look like a cop to you, Bev? Coppers. Man, we have a week left. Oh, I just finished cooking my carbonara buldak. Fluffy, from what I've heard, in order for you not to suffer to the harsh effects of the sauce, you remember the sachet that you had to cut? So you get that, you have a little sip that like you get the rest of the sauce out. And then after that, the capsaicin should cancel each other out later when you get the noodles into your mouth. That's like free advice right there. Detective is just a cop with a fancy. Um, or I will try. You cut open the sachet and then no. Mm-hmm. I'm actually craving for some bulldog right now. That'd be so good. Just put more cheese on it. Cheese does make things good. I believe I'll be heading to the gym now. See you around, Kino. See ya. I would share with you. You would transfer it like the way a bird would, just like to the chicks. Ah, yes. Just like the African tribes who go make some of their fermented like drinks, their wine of some sorts. They would chew up sago, right? Like the sago from the trees, it's white like sap. Like the women would chew it and purposely spit it back, and it's a communal thing. They would let the bacteria from their saliva and whatever decay their mouth suffers from, and they would use it to make their liquor. Except you do it with bulldog. Also, had to run some spares on their way back and not looking to get into trouble with this early in the day. Okay, no problem with this. I too will probably go skedaddly do soon. I have to go eat some more dumplings. Shrimp, pork, shiitake mushrooms, the same thing I had earlier. Either that or my garlic soy chicken that's been in the freezer for a week now. We have something similar in Bolivia called chicha. Oh, it means Beth knows what I'm talking about. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not gonna drink it though. No, mm-mm. Soon means 1 or 2 more hours. Oh, promise, Draxons. I'll go on time. Chewed fermented corn drink. Yep. Well, how did I end up here? Well, hello, you look badass. Hi there, Furky. Kidros. Catchy name. Beth says, yeah, I'll eat most things, but I don't eat what other people spit up. Yeah, yikes. Uh, yuck. Uh, Same here, Nord. Same here. Like, mm-mm. Well, anyway. Um, what if it's someone you have a crush on? Oh my god. Just like that clip in Gumball. Before it can even touch the ground, you're gonna catch it with your mouth open. You gotta sink pretty low, says Nordex. Okay. Chat. I'm getting hungry despite the gross talk we're having. So I'm gonna go skedaddle for today, okay? So I have energy on Wednesday to stream. I I actually like streaming here. So you will probably find me streaming around Complex 7 uh for the next few times I go live. It really has a good like a live atmosphere going on. See you around, Infintus. Thank you to everybody that supported me in today's stream. The to and fro between Fluffy and Nordex and Beth obviously intervening. Inventus Prince who gave some biddies and Wallow who was gone. I'm gonna go eat, chat. I'm hungry. Yes, I'm not prolonging my stream. Ain't that great? We'll be waiting for the next stream. Thank you, Waffle. Enjoy the food. Enjoy your blender work. To see you in a form other than the tiger. No, the tiger bee, that Nova bee. He's lying. He's gotta stay for another 30. No, no, I'm gone. I'm disappeared. I have vanished. Oh my goodness, it's Corgi Cam. Totally not browsing to Twitch. By the way, there was something I've been curious about before I go. Also, thank you, Blonde Dingo. In theory, I can just have a big screen projected here, right? And I can play my games while wearing my VR headset and have my tracking. That's gonna be an interesting setup for a game stream. Obviously, you won't see my hands because. Let's see. Let's see. That seems. That's an interesting idea. Make it happen. What am I gonna play, Frank? Yeah, if it's Helldivers, you're just gonna hear me become non-TOS on live. But yes, idea for another time. At least that's up there. That being said, oops. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. I'll, I'll be heading off now. I'll catch you all Wednesday. Thanks for tuning into today's stream. You have a great day, okay? See you around, chat. Now, how the heck do I get out of here? Whoa, ho, ho there.